Hello, and thanks for joining us once again on Punters Inside Run. It's the last race day of the year, July 30. We start a new year in August, Shark. It's the last race day, and as expected, no real feature races, but we're racing at Melbourne. We're back at the Valley, and also we've got racing at Randwick.
The countdown begins to spring, doesn't it, Matty, this week? I think we've got probably this week and next week a somewhat flat race meetings, although the Ori Star's coming up pretty quickly in Melbourne. But I think there are a couple of lull weeks before we get right into the early spring runners. Although if you have a look at racing news sites, all the big guns, they're back and they're nearly ready to trial and whatnot. So it won't be too long before we're betting on some very, very good horses.
Very true. Let's find a couple of winners in the meantime. As I said, we're racing at the Valley. Some people like the Valley, some people hate it. How do you feel about punting at the Valley?
Look, all dependent on whether we win or lose, Matt. I think the Valley can be a great place. It can be a shocker as well, can't it? But I think there are a couple of horses racing on Saturday that probably they're overdue for a win. They've been racing really well, and I hope they get that well-deserved win this weekend. And the first of those, and I've made him my best because I think he's absolutely punching the door down to break through, is race 5, number 1, MILFORD.
Okay,
he's been so good at his last two, hasn't he? At Caulfield and Flemington last start, he's just tracked into the race like the winner. He's quickened like the winner. He's done everything bar win. I think both times he's been beaten a short head and a short half head last start by young Verta. So he is absolutely busting the win. A small field, an inside gate will have him stalking the speed again. But I think that I've gone with this jockey on a couple of bets this weekend, purely because he's been the absolute star of the season from my eyes. Blake Shinn is back aboard. His strike rate's been enormous this season, and I think he'll be the man to get MILFORD across the line. He's the best bet.
My best bet's another Will in race number 3. That talented youngster just had the 2 starts, destroyed them at Moonee at the second start. Looks like a progressive gelding. They're on wet surfaces, gets a firm surface for the first time. So I think if it ticks that box, then I think another Will looks hard to beat. What about your next best at the Valley?
Next best, I'm going with race 7, number 5, Jimmy the Bear. Look,
Jimmy.
He's been a bit of a tease this prep, hasn't he? I think he's put in a few flashing light runs and he's caught punters a few times. Probably no more so than last start in that Vic Championship final, the Winter Championship final, where he was a heavily back favourite with the blinkers on. But that gear change just worked right against him. He just got way too keen. They had to go forward with him for that race. I don't think this is a horse that wants to be ridden up on speed. He's much better ridden quietly and allowed to flood home. He's drawn wide, so I think that's their only option here. Again, Blake Shinn takes the ride. I think at $4.80, if you backed him last time at Flemington, you must follow up at that price. He's the sort of horse that could go and win this race with a bit of comfort, and punters would be kicking themselves if they didn't bet. I think the big one to watch, though, and keep an eye on the markets for Urban Oasis having its first start in Australia. Nick Ryan trains this import. A couple of quiet trials. Not sure how to read them, Matty, but I'll be judging the horse's chances here by the market moves.
Yeah, I'm with you on Blake Shinn in the last as well as my next best in Perel. Yeah, a consistent horse, 8 starts, just had the 1 win, but has had 7 placings and now gets the 1,200 metres, which is Perel's favourite distance. And as you say, Blake Shinn takes the ride, and I think that's a real bonus for me. What about your best value at the Valley?
I reckon it's race 6, number 2, THORIN. He was a good winner last time over 2,000, right up on speed, kicked away, got rolling off the corner, and they couldn't catch him. Up in trip here, but I think the early market, they saw an opportunity. It was $26 with BetR. He's into 15 now. I still think there's a bit of fat on that price there, Matty. For a last start winner in a pretty ordinary race, I think THORIN can run well again.
I think Farrago, race number 6, is real value for me. I mean, it's on a quick backup from running behind T Waters last start, but it did it exactly the same thing last year at the Valley, a 7-day backup, and came out and won and beat Mimi's Reward on that day. And we know how well Mimi's Reward's going. Look, if it was a wet track, I think this horse would be $3, and I think because it's a firm track, getting around $7.50. But Farrago's going to be right in the finish.
Yeah, agree with you. It's a very open race, the 6th.
All right, what about your best in Sydney on the weekend?
I reckon we might have found the same one again, Matty. We might have been with it a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if I'm right. Race 7, number 4, MOGO Magic. Super win first up, pressured by a couple of rivals throughout the first 3 quarters of that race. But he kicked away from them on the corner and really put a little margin up there. The runners on were always going to make ground on him because of that early pressure. So I think that the margin was probably flattering to those second, third, and fourth hitting the line. He's second up. He's up to a benchmark 72, so he's out of that highway grade. But I think this is a pretty achievable step for this horse. $2.35 is a really good price. I think Mogo Magic will win.
Yeah, straight to the front and win, make it 5 out of 5. Had no right really to win that last start, given was pressured the entire race, but should handle the benchmark 72. I also like Estrella from the OASIS camp. Dual acceptor, but I'm hoping and I'm hearing that he's going to run in Sydney. Just thought that debut win at Gosford was excellent. Looks a stakes class filly here, so I'm going to back Estrella. I don't usually stay away from those 2-year-old races at the start of the day at Sydney, but I'll be having something on Estrella for the OASIS camp. What else do you like?
Race 8, number 3, DEEPOUR. Really good run in the Moonee last time. Just got back. Well, it tends to get back, but held up when it probably wanted to be moving into the race. Had to go back inside. There was a traffic jam all around it outside. Made good ground and was only probably a length and a half from the winner there. I think that Moonee form translates to a good standard for a race like this, a benchmark race. It does carry a bit of weight, but she's going really well. $6 is an each way price all day for me. And I reckon the best value, well, with this horse first up at 1,100 metres, race 6, number 4, Custodian. They just backed the speed off a little bit in that sprint race, and Custodian just probably lacked the turn of foot to come from worst in midfield and run those leaders down. Goes to 1,300 second up. In hindsight, he probably needed that first up run off a couple of softer trials. So it wouldn't shock me if he came out and won this race, Custodian. He's $14, Matty, to find out. I know he's a better horse than that price. Gelded this time around. He needs to stand up and show it, though.
All right, mate. Anything else at the Valley before I let you get back to Hervey Bay on the way to Noosa, if you don't mind?
Yeah, a little bit of work up in Queensland for the Shark clan this week, Matty. No, that'll do me. I think the Valley's going to be a tough day. I think we work around those three in Sydney. Hopefully there's something there to pay for a nice meal out for the girls.
All right, mate. Will you enjoy the rest of your trip? We'll talk to you next week.
Go on you, Matty.
That's the Punters Inside Run. Sharks travelling around the country with the family, having some fun, but there's always time for a winner. See you next week.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.